Hey Broncos fans, Sam Brown here with the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Hope you're having a good weekend and enjoy the 2021 NFL Draft. A very eventful draft for George Paton in his first offseason as the Broncos general manager. But on today's show, we're breaking down their undrafted free agent signings. 11 players that George Paton and the Denver Broncos have reportedly signed. And we'll start here with the wide receivers. BRANDEN, MACK, wide receiver out of Temple. Mike Kliss had this one, as well as the next one, which we'll get into in a sec. But BRANDEN, MACK, quarterback in high school, transitioned to wide receiver when he went to Temple. A bigger guy, 6'5", 217 pounds. You'll kind of see a trend with some of those receivers that the undrafted free agents that Denver signed. A little more big, high-point receivers. Not the most athletic guy, but led the team in touchdowns in 2018, led them in receiving in 2019, slowed down a little bit in 2020, and just not very athletic, not overly athletic, but strives in those contested catch situations. So not a bad addition there for Denver. Like DEVONTRES Dukes, another guy who... Another 6'3", 216. These are taller receivers. 297 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2020 with South Florida. Actually really struggled at first. Only had 8 catches, 1 touchdown in his first 3 seasons at South Florida. Said he considered quitting football, but obviously tripled the amount of catches there in his final season with South Florida. And so just another receiver to add to the room, along with a guy that I'm very excited about, Warren Jackson. I'm sure some of you guys are quite familiar with him from his time at Colorado State. Over 1,100 yards in 2019, opted out of the 2020 season, but he is a tall, long receiver, huge catch radius at 6'6", 219 pounds. He's not super explosive, needs to work on expanding his route tree, but out of these 3 guys, I think he's probably got the best chance at making the Broncos 53-man roster. I want to hear from you. Warren Jackson was definitely mine, and I'm sure he'll be the one for you guys. Who was your favorite Broncos undrafted free agent signing? We've got 8 more to go here on the list, but I want you to get your votes in the comment section. Maybe you can do it at the end of the video too, once we get through some of the other names, just to make sure you don't miss anybody. But let me know in the comment section. Adam Prentice next up on the list, fullback out of South Carolina, another guy that some of you guys might be familiar with. Started his career at Colorado State, played his first 4 years there, then transferred to South Carolina. Took a medical redshirt in 2016, so he's been in the college game for quite some time now, an older guy, and probably more than anything, just kind of competition for Andrew Beck. Fullback isn't a huge part of the Broncos offense, so it's really hard to find a solid fit for him at 5'11", 251 pounds. 2 tight ends here. The first one, Landon Rice. Both of these guys have similar frames, but Landon Rice started his career at Auburn, was suspended after a Title IX investigation that found him guilty of a sexual assault case, wound up leaving Auburn, spent a year at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, and then transferred to Jacksonville State, where he didn't have a massive impact. This is a traits-based guy. It certainly isn't because of character, because as we saw, off the field, wasn't the cleanest guy in his time at Auburn. And so hopefully he's got his life turned around, obviously several years since that point in time, but I think he's more of a long shot to make the roster, probably more of a practice squad guy. SHAUN, BEYER, on the other hand, that's kind of the same thing. 6'5", 248. Landon Rice was 6'5", 247 out of Iowa. Maybe the Broncos like these Iowa tight ends. Noah Fant, you never know. Started 14 games over the final 2 seasons. SHAUN BEYER did. A very raw prospect, but he's got some untapped athletic potential. He can block on the inline, and he's also got some decent speed as well. He's going to need to prove his worth on special teams, however, if he wants to make this Broncos roster. All right, be sure to subscribe to the Broncos Breakdown. The NFL Draft is over, but we're not stopping any coverage here on the Broncos Breakdown. I was behind the camera for the entire weekend. Shout out to Harrison for hopping behind the computer for me. But all those videos that you saw on the Broncos Breakdown, I was the one producing them. Again, in a weird way, it's kind of like you're watching me this whole time. So if you like some of my content, if you like some of the videos that we're doing here at the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. Closing in on 3,000 subscribers, and we'll have plenty of more coverage as the 2021 NFL season nears. All right, next guy up on the list, Nolan Laufenberg, the offensive lineman out of Air Force. Mike Kliss again on this one. He was on most of these, honestly. He was really really on one this weekend. But 3-year starter at Air Force, was an Outland Trophy candidate actually back in 2019, and a 2-time Midwest Conference first-teamer. A bigger guy at 6'4", 312 pounds. He's a little slow. He's not unathletic, so to speak, but not, overly athletic for his position. He's just kind of average in those areas. And so it's going to be a little hard for him to find a spot on this Broncos 53-man roster of probably a practice squad guy to start out. Probably the same thing goes for Drew Himmelman, the offensive tackle out of Illinois State. This is a guy that started out as a tight end and actually added 75 pounds as he made the transition to offensive line, now at 6'9". 6'9", that is huge. 323 pounds coming out of Illinois State. 39 starts over 4 seasons. Played this spring. The FCS had a 2021 spring season as opposed to a fall season, and he just wrapped up that season. Has a wide base, fairly agile, but struggles obviously with that big frame with some of the speedier rushes underneath. But at the same time, he plays upright and struggles against some of those powerful rushes as well. So going to need a little bit of time, but the upside is certainly there for a guy like Drew Himmelman. Name a free agent the Broncos should sign. Not an undrafted free agent, an actual free agent. A free agent that played in the NFL last season. There's still some quality talent out there, whether it's a guy like Casey Hayward, regardless of how short up you think the secondary may be. A guy like Melvin Ingram, perhaps, for some veteran rotation off the edge. Let me know in the comments section what you think. I'm going to go back and see what you guys have to say, so I want to hear from you in the comments section. All right, wrapping up here, a couple players on the defensive side of the ball, starting with Curtis Robinson, the linebacker out of Stanford, a former 4-star recruit committed to Stanford over USC. He started the last 2 years with the Cardinal. Senior captain last season, led them in tackles in just 6 games in 2020. Just doesn't have a ton of explosiveness as a sideline-to-sideline middle linebacker. Shows some flashes, but definitely a guy that's going to need some growth and likely a practice squad guy to start out. Next up, Andre Mintze, the outside linebacker out of Vanderbilt, a tweener outside linebacker defensive end at 6'2", 253 pounds. Sorry, it says 6'3", 246, but he's listed as his combine testing as 6'2", 253. Tom Pelissero reporting that one. The second on the team for Vanderbilt last season in tackles for loss and sacks. The guy who was right ahead of him, Dayo Odeyingbo, second-round pick by the Colts this year, so not too shabby. He's shown some flashes of speed and power as well. Just hasn't quite put it all together yet. And so this is definitely a stash guy that maybe over a couple years could really start to show some flashes and maybe make an impact, maybe make a 53-man roster. And then finally, cornerback McCain III out of North Carolina A&T. This is a guy that actually I think could be a solid player over time. Attended, obviously, like I said, North Carolina A&T and FCS school and really shined. Redshirted his first year and then started 29 games over 3 seasons, dealt with a little bit of knee problems, but had 8 interceptions over his career. 4 of them returned for a touchdown, 30 PBUs over his time as well. Very raw instincts, has the tools to succeed. Physically a little shorter maybe than you'd like at 5'11", 186, a little bit of a smaller frame, but he's got the attitude, especially for an undrafted free agent, and he's got the physical tools to potentially go in and make an impact over time with the Broncos. This is a guy I think to watch, McCain III. All right, that was 11 names. You heard them all top to bottom. I want to hear your grade for the Broncos undrafted free agent signings. Go in the comments section and type either A, B, C, D, or F.